I would like to get a first reaction on the data that we obtained today, because I would like to understand how concerning is it, the reading on international orders having dropped in the month of December. Do we need to read that with a bit of caution, given that we have also potential trade tariffs coming from the United States?
Yes, absolutely. And you can also see in the sentiment index about, firms are asked, what do you think about future output? In all of the PMIs, not just today's PMI, but last week's Chinese PMIs, they all saw this big fall in sentiment. And if you read the reports, firms are saying, we're really worried about trade protectionism. We don't know how bad it's going to be, but there's huge uncertainties.
That's exactly it, though. We don't have the certainty. We don't know exactly what Donald Trump is going to do, whether he's actually going to impose tariffs. So ultimately, what is the outlook here for the Chinese economy this year?
So the external outlook, very uncertain, but I think we can all agree it's negative. And
despite all the promises of fiscal stimulus.
So domestic economy, so that's the question, right? What is the Chinese government going to do in response to mitigate that impact, however large it is? I think it's pretty clear that they're going to step up fiscal stimulus. And I think you can also interpret, for example, what they've done last year, a bit of targeted stimulus, but still quite restrained, by many market analysts and investors' perspectives. And I think that means that they do have some more room to step up stimulus, come March. And it's going to be responsive. It's going to see, what does the newest Trump administration do? How can China respond? It's going to be a back and forth, not a one-shot game at all. But when all that's said and done, I think it's still very likely that any amount of plausible Chinese fiscal stimulus will only provide a partial offset to the negative effect of the global trade situation.
Ultimately, though, I would like to understand also how you're reading the data around the Chinese consumer, because obviously there's the promises and some stimulus announced by the authorities. But at the same time, we know that we're approaching a very important time of the year for the Chinese consumer, with the Chinese New Year celebrations coming up. How would you describe the state of the consumer at the moment? Yeah,
so I would say the general Chinese consumer is still in this post-pandemic, sluggish, kind of dismal recovery mode. Now, there are pockets of spending which have picked up, but they're largely because of stimulus. Whether it's electric vehicles, home appliances, the next round they're going to be like mobile phones. But, essentially what is happening here is the government is giving incentives for consumers to spend now rather than in the future. They're bringing demand forward. They're not creating additional demand. The big question for consumers is whether, some of these stimulus actions can start to filter out to the broader economy, create a stronger jobs market, start to give people proper jobs. Got a lot of young people last year who took make-work jobs.